Hello, I'm Dr. Andrew Allen from Georgia College and State University, and that was the concert band Alto Lyrical Etude. So this is a short etude, but there are a few very, very particular things you need to keep in mind. First of all, we have a high C at pianissimo as our very first note. The high C can often be sharp and a little brittle on most saxophones. So something that you should experiment with, first of all, put a drone on. Take a concert E flat pitch from something and just practice playing pianissimo high Cs against that to make sure that you're in tune. Also, to help with intonation and with a fuller, richer sound, you may want to start thinking about something called voicing. It's a fancy term, but it's quite simple. We can use different vowel syllables to shape the intonation and timbre of our saxophones, especially in different ranges where we may have different issues. The higher range, the lower range, they're going to present different challenges, so you may use different syllables. But up top, I would try a do articulation syllable. If you're formed that way, or a do articulation syllable, it's going to help open up the intonation and the tone on those high Cs. So that may be something to experiment with along with that drone. A couple other ideas. Just a reminder, all of the trills in this etude, remember that you trill up into the next note in the key unless you see something that tells you otherwise. So in this one, the A trill in bar 3, A to a B, the trill in bar 5, an E to an F natural both times. And then an A to a B, again in bar 6. A little fingering suggestion for you in bar 6. We have a leap from a G sharp A grace into a high F. Now you notice I didn't go to my palms there. I would actually recommend another fingering to experiment with. Play a C, the octave key, and then you'll either have a little button or a little plateau key like I do above your B key. Playing those together, you should be able to get a high F. You may have to experiment with it a little bit to get it to come out consistently, but if you can get it to come out consistently with a beautiful sound, by the time you get to your audition, it's a much easier transition up to that and then back down from that. That's a really good alternate fingering for you. One other little idea on this, in measure 7, you have an interesting little indication, senza diminuendo. Now senza is very important there. It means without, so without diminuendo. So keep the forte going until you see that piano. The piano should be relatively subito. Now, listen as I perform the technical etude. That was the technical etude. Now on this one, my first and most important piece of advice is you need to work on this in small chunks with the metronome, starting very slow and gradually building up. I know sometimes it seems like that's going to take a lot more time than crashing through, but I promise you it will be learned more effectively and you'll be much happier with the end result. Talk to your band director about effective practice techniques with the metronome, but if you have any other questions, please just email me and I'd be happy to help you out. A few other ideas on this one. Constant air is of absolute top importance in this etude. If you start breaking up your airstream for the little phraselets, you will have response issues. Rather, I want you to think about blowing constantly through a phrase, maybe even with a little, what I call imaginary crescendo, to keep the airstream rolling towards the end of a phrase. When you have these little slurred pairs, I want you to think about a do articulation, and when you have staccatos, I want you to think about a di articulation. But otherwise, just keep your air constant throughout. The tongue is the only thing making that change. Also, a few fingering suggestions throughout. First of all, in measure 6, on the downbeat of beat 2, you can use an alternate F sharp. That should make your life a lot easier. You're playing the F, and then you're going to alternate F sharp. Using your third finger, you reach straight back, and that little key added to the F is an alternate F sharp. Also, you have a couple different options with your B flat fingerings. You could use the side B flat, which is 1, 2, with the side key, or you could use bis B flat, which is the B key, and then with the same finger you add that little tiny key underneath the B key, all with the first finger. You can use the side A sharp in measure 7 on beat 1, the bis at the end of beat 1, side at the end of beat 2, and then bis for the rest of the phrase. Really, that's the biggest challenge in this piece, just that little chunk. And one other suggestion on fingerings for you, in measure 14, we can use another front fingering for a high note. There we have a high E. Just like we had the front F, there's also a front E. So start with the C, octave key, front key, so there's your F, and then add your third finger for the E. If you can work on that and get a really beautiful sound to come out on that and access it, that can make measure 14 quite a bit easier for you. I hope that these suggestions have been helpful. I certainly hope that as you work on these etudes, you're making a lot of progress as a musician and as a saxophonist, because that's what they're all about. If you have any questions along the way, please reach out to me. But until then, happy practicing.